Hello and welcome back to the United Mag podcast, your podcast of all things Newcastle United, hosted by three lifelong Newcastle United fans. Myself, D-Man, joined by my legendary co-host AC and Jefferson. How we doing, people?
What's up?
What's up?
Been a
Back
while,
in
man.
the building.
Feels like forever.
Yeah.
Forever. We've another quiet couple of weeks for Newcastle United and that. But before we go
Quiet?
ahead,
Quiet?
You lot ain't even picked up on my tan.
Oh yeah. Welcome
You know
back.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enjoying the holiday. Do you want to tell
Bathing in that sun, you lot don't even notice. Cha.
Why? You're
I don't
glowing,
know.
man.
Maybe it's the camera.
positively
It's the camera.
glowing.
It's the camera, man. It's like low saturation. I can't tell.
But but don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, all that good stuff. You know, get the numbers up and that. We appreciate it. But we're joined by another special guest. We can guess by the background of Fulham fan. Yeah. You want to introduce yourself to the people, my friend?
Yes, of course, mate. Hello, everyone. My name is Taro, or as Jeff likes to call me, Kante. No resemblance, just play like him in football. I'm a massive football fan, and as you can tell by the background, my shirt and the scarf, I support Fulham Football Club. We've had some rough times recently, but we're back in the Premier League. And if you want to know more about me, I've got a Twitter, or X, as some of you lot might call it. Just follow me there. Drop me a follow on Draco VFL. But yeah, happy to be on the podcast, guys, and thank you for welcoming me on.
No, man, happy to have you here, man.
Welcome, man.
Welcome.
As a Fulham fan, we send our condolences, isn't it? Because you know about pain, so it's all good. It's all good.
It's all right,
Condolences.
Thanks for that, mate. Thank you.
But obviously,
And we're off.
Yes,
He's breaking you in.
You know that it goes, isn't it? But obviously, we're going to be playing Fulham in this game week coming up. But we're going to start with recent events. We're coming off of I say another win. Our first away win of the season. We went down to Molineux, slapped Wolves about a little bit, come out with a 2-1 win. Light work? What are we saying? What were your thoughts on the game, AC?
I feel like I'm repeating what I said on the last episode with Tottenham, what I was saying about Jekyll and Hyde. This is Jekyll and Hyde all over again. I feel like, obviously, we started the game quite well, but then there was definitely something happening in that first half, and it just changed. I know we're going to get into the details around this, but it's almost just like many acts when it comes to Newcastle games. It's not as simple as you think it's going to be. But obviously, we finished well, and that's the main thing, and we come out with a win. And that's the short, sweet version of that story. But yeah, there's many layers.
I don't know what the fuss is about. Look, we're on 10 points. Best start of the season since, 95, 96. Sign of a good team, not playing well, still getting the results. What's there to be concerned about, Jefferson?
Yeah, it's a valid point you make. I think AC was talking about it. Was it yesterday or earlier today about performance fee result, and I think it's one of those ones. Yeah, when you look at the league table, you're literally like, well, what's all the fuss about? But it was actually my birthday weekend, and I was watching it in a German sports bar in Gran Canaria. So I was enjoying the sunshine and the atmosphere because there was a Bundesliga game going on at the same time. So there was a bustling atmosphere, and I think that added to the game for me. I wanted obviously a win for my birthday, and I got it. So I was screaming and chanting, obviously, once we got the win. But as we know, as we've seen too often this season, that little in-between bit is never nice to watch when, your team's under the cosh. The other team are, utilizing the ball a lot better. And in some instances, we're chasing shadows or whatever. And there's something about it where it's Wolves at the end of the day. I think Wolves came into the game third or fourth bottom. So really, to take the initiative and show that progression, really, we need to kind of assert ourselves a lot better. But I think we'll talk about sort of team selection, which could have led to that kind of thing in a bit. But for me, to see the likes of, I think it was Andre, João Gomez, who I'm a big fan of, and Lamina sort of dominate that midfield, it made for some real sort of torrid watching, to be honest with you.
Okay, so as a neutral, Kante, what are your thoughts on Newcastle start to the season and this game itself?
I think Newcastle have started pretty decently. If you look at the points wise, it's been okay. I think if as a neutral, when you look at anyone with that many points at the start of the season, you go, oh, what a great start. But when you look at it on performance wise, they're kind of like, is it really? I remember there was I think it's the second to last episode where AC was talking about the win's a win, that's nice, but the performances is still a bit concerning. And that's exactly what it was at Wolves. There was times when Newcastle looked like the better team, and then it would be 30, 35 minutes of Wolves, as Jeff said, dominating midfield with Lamina, Andre, Joao Gomez, and Andre as well. Fulham wanted him for 3 years and didn't sign him, which is quite annoying. So he would have been good for us. But yeah, he looked really good against Newcastle. But again, I think, Newcastle winning that game just comes down to quality. They've got more quality in the squad. 2 great goals, especially the Harvey Barnes one. I mean, I was even saying in the Euros that he has to start for England, and he proved us all right. That was, in my opinion, already that's goal of the season for me. It's some strike, and even the Fabian Schär one, of course. Good goal from him.
Here we go.
Yes, they see.
You know I'm coming with this. You know I'm coming. Hold me back.
Even the Schär one, it may have taken the deflection, but still a good goal. So yeah, I think the start of the season in terms of results wise, very good. Performances, of course, things need to work on, and there's things to improve. But in terms of results, good start for Newcastle.
You're right. I mean, look, the performances all season haven't been good. Yeah, and I think I said, I don't know what group chat it was, but I said I didn't want to see the same old start good for 15, 20 minutes and then we just die, right? And that's exactly what we did, like to a man. We started very well, passing it around comfortably, controlling the ball, controlling possession. Wasn't really creating too many opportunities. I know Murphy had one when Isak slipped him through. Maybe could have done better than that. Obviously, Gordon's hit the woodwork with a great solo run. But what is it about us that we just not down tools, but we just allow the other team, the opposition, to get on top of us for a good 35 to 40 minutes before we wake up towards the end and our quality chimes through. Like, this is the frustrating part. Now, Jefferson, you talked about the starting lineup. Were you surprised to see the lineup that we went with, and which players did you think should have started?
Listen, the humdinger is the Longstaff one, because I would get it if Tonali didn't play a full game for Italy, but he's been able to prove his fitness there. He's chomping at the bit to go. When he has come on, he's been impressive. So, you'd expect to see him starting over Longstaff based on his pure quality and leadership qualities on the pitch alone. I think we've talked about in recent games about our lack of quality in possession, and what he does is he's a tempo player. He can slow the game down, but he can also be, very precise with his passing, cutting through the lines. That's what we need, because I've noticed Joe Linton and Bruno like to dribble on the ball too much, and Longstaff just passes sideways and backwards mainly. If he tries to pass forward, he loses the ball, which, I mean, we'll talk about the goals later, but I blame him for the Lamina goal. So again, that sort of thing is preventable, I think, if you start with Tonali in the team. The other one for me, as we can see early this season, our form player is Harvey Barnes, and I have no idea why Eddie has gone for Murphy over Barnes. I think there's a big argument about, are we looking to blast teams away early? Or is Eddie keeping his powder dry? And I think that's something we can obviously discuss. But for me, those were the two that stand out that clearly should have started the game.
So, AC, in regards to the lineup, right? Jefferson mentioned Harvey Barnes. If he was to start, does that mean that you move Gordon onto the right and you take away, his qualities on the left to shoot or to fit Barnes in? And is there an argument to say that Barnes he's not, I won't say he's got the Trossard effect where he's more effective off the bench, but it's an argument to say it's working. He's hungry when he comes off the bench, he's proven himself. When he starts, he's maybe not that effective. What's your thoughts?
It's a tough one. We've got two players here, which we're quite spoiled for choice, that both play in the same position. Now, a lot of fans have been crying out that Barnes have to start, Barnes have to start. But there's something that I've been kind of thinking about with this little bit of space from the weekend, just thinking about this game and like digesting it, and even watching over some of those clips. I was thinking to myself, if we do start Barnes, and let's say if he's the right or the left, or you have Gordon on left and right, whatever way it is, it does mean then if we do hit later down the line in the game, we've only got Murphy then to come on. Because at the moment, let's face it, Almiron's not getting any game time now. I think he's definitely stepped low in the ranks in terms of like players coming on to make effect on games. We're clearly seeing that Almiron is sleeping down the bottom of the pile. So we're just looking at Murphy really. And I think this is where we're lacking. And I've been thinking about this. It almost goes back to our summer transfer window where we didn't obviously buy a right wing player who can come in and obviously make good effect. Because if we did have a right wing player, for this example, I'm just going to say Alanga, for example. This is an example. I'm not saying that he would have been a guaranteed player, but let's say you did have someone who, let's admit, someone who had bigger coup than Murphy, then I think it becomes less of an issue, because this is one of those things where it's a thin line, because obviously the impact of the subs helps us win the game. And it's happened like a couple of times now. But if you start those players, you don't have no impact coming off the bench to win the game. So it becomes a matter of, do we want to win the games early? Or is Howe almost like really trying to work it out and trying to win the game late with the substitutions?
You know
I
what?
think it's a really like hard, it's a difficult thing to analyze.
It is a tough one. It's a tough one.
Because part of me feels like if you really put all your effort into the first starting 11 to say, this is the very best. And I think in some instances, it might depend on the context if we're playing home and away and the opposition. Put it this way, if we're going to face Man City at home in a couple of weeks, I think you have to play your starting best 11. Barnes has to start. Barnes has to start.
Even when we play Manchester United at home in a few weeks, I think you have to play your strongest 11.
You have to play your strongest 11. And therefore, I would like to see Tonali start in that regard as well.
Yeah.
But I do wonder, you know, even though we might not agree with it of Murphy starting, because you're like, how's Murphy starting when we know he hasn't been in any kind of form at all? Same with Longstaff, let's admit that as well. Then you'll like put in like your 60 million pound player, international Italian midfielder Maestro on the bench, who should be starting, but at the same time,
I mean, there's an argument for like you said, it's a case of whether Eddie wants to, you know, blow teams away or, you know, get the impact off the bench. And I think against the quote unquote weaker teams, he probably feels that starting 11 should be enough to do a job anyway. And if not, then he's got the backup to come on and change the game. Whereas he said, when you play a bigger team, you play your strongest team, try to stay in the game or try to go ahead. And then if you want to shore things up, you bring on the likes of Longstaff and Murphy. Now, I want to ask Kante about the Tonali thing, right? Because everyone's screaming that he should have started the game, right? We know his quality, right? But is there an argument to say that, listen, he's had 10 months out with no first-team football. He's come back for Newcastle. He's played, I think, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, and 30 minutes, right? Yes, he's played the 90 minutes for Italy. But again, he's got the international break. So that's 2 games, you know, 2 intense games, short recovery time to come back and play on the weekend. And also the international games that are slower tempo than it is in the Premier League. So maybe that he's still trying to edge him in and slowly but surely. Do you think he should have started the game, or do you think there's a method to the madness?
I definitely think there's a method to the madness. I think when someone, as a player like Tonali is, when he's out for so long, which was 10 months, I believe, it's very hard to just come back into a Premier League starting 11 and then get into the swing of things. And of course, as you said, D-Man, when he goes away with Italy, he may have played both 90 minutes, but it's a lot slower over there. You know, international football isn't the same as the Premier League. You know, Premier League is fast tempo, fast pace, is a lot more physical. And when you're playing a team like Wolves, you know, they like to dominate the ball. They like to use the midfield. I think in that game, especially against Wolves, I'm not going to say he would have struggled because I think he's really, really good, but I think he would have been a lot more tired, a lot quicker if he would have started the game. I think, you know, with Italy, we know how Italian teams play. You know, just look at their league. They're slow-tempered. They like to keep the ball on the floor, like to use their players, like to get through the midfield quickly and then slow the game down when they need to. But in the Premier League, it's a lot more fast-paced. So when you're out for 10 months, I think it's just oozing him into the team. And then when you finally get to see that he's got his fitness back, his match sharpness back, then you can say, right, Tonali, let's start him. So I think against Wolves, it wasn't the right time. I think give him another game or two, then I think he definitely starts for me.
Okay. So getting to the game itself, right? So as we alluded to, we started off well, knocking the ball around very well and stuff, not created a couple of good opportunities. Then we conceded the goal, right? So let's talk about the goal, because I know Jeff said it was Longstaff fault, right? Now, I agree. He tried to play the early pass, right? Now, maybe I'm thinking too much into this, right? But my thinking is, he knows that Tonali's on him, right? Ready to pounce, ready to take his place, right? And he knows Tonali is he's the master of that quick first time ball, precise ball kind of thing. Maybe he's trying to show that, I can do that too, right? And he can't, right? So he's misplaced the pass, it's got intercepted, but there was a period of time between him misplacing the pass and us conceding the goal. Now, should we have done better? Listen, people make mistakes, innit? Yeah? But we turned over possession, and I think it's like 6 or 7 seconds or whatever it is, and then they scored a goal. Can the blame be solely put on Longstaff, or is there other people that should have done a lot better? Anyone?
Who's tackling this first? Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Go for it.
Okay, I think several things. I know in the podcast we've spoken a lot before about Longstaff, about being in positions and almost not doing a progressive pass at all. Just like you said before, like he goes sideways, the ball never really goes forward. And we've been critical of Longstaff in that. And sometimes you're just like, man, just pass the ball forward. They're like, look for the ball to cut the lines at least, And to be honest, it's really unfair because like part of me just looked at that situation. I was like, if Tonali was in that position, we would have probably scored that goal because it was such a moment of like, I don't want to like discredit because I'm not saying it's like a very hard position to like feed that ball through, but I think we all would say that we'd be confident that Tonali would have done that. And I think that's when we're starting really comparing the details there. But now when Longstaff did obviously try to do that pass and then obviously the turnover happened to Wolves and then they were progressing up the pitch. Obviously, there are a lot of our key players who were involved in there. Now, I'm going to highlight players like Bruno, who unfortunately wasn't able to track his man, right? We got Byrne, who was just running down that left wing, right? And it looked like he was, right, he was trying his best to like, and it's one of the things about, it's easy to say like, oh man, you just got to put your leg, you got to get yourself in there at least, or just take one for the team. But I think we have to realize that pace that Wolves went up the pitch was no joke. They broke so fast. And then you got also players like Livramento who just looked out of sorts a bit. And we'll get back into him in a bit because I don't know what's going on with Livramento. Sometimes it's like it's not sharp enough to realize something. I don't know. And then we got Fabian Schär. He was almost just like he's got too many. It's a difficult situation.
It was a great dummy, to be fair. Great dummy.
It was a great dummy. And I have to give credit to Wolves for that. It was a great goal. And I was just like, this is their game plan right here. It was to catch us on the break. And I think a lot of teams are trying to do that anyway, because with our formation, I love talking about formation. And I don't want to do this too much on this episode. But, on the break, it's quite easy to catch us off break and break through that midfield because if no one's even going to cover for Bruno's just on his own. And you saw that clearly. He had to try run back and he couldn't. It's just a mess. And I feel like everyone has a part to play. So I feel like with that goal we conceived, yes, Longstaff might have started that mistake, but I feel like there's a lot of key people involved in that. So I don't think we can almost like put the blame totally on Longstaff. It's a team effort at the end of the day. But I feel like it's a really good goal that Wolves did score at the end of the day as well. So you have to give credit where it's due.
Okay. Jefferson?
I mean, where do you start? I remember Craig Hope, one of his post-match analysis said that the way we play is very similar, where it's still the same as 2 years ago. The difference is the players aren't fit enough, and they're not bang at it like they were 2 years ago. So this goes back to the frustrations we've had with the manager, that he's not looked to evolve the team. We're playing exactly the same way. And I would say we're awful with the ball and we're awful off the ball, because we're not getting the press right. We're very easy to pass through, and I've watched it with neutral fans and fans that support other teams. They're like, whoa, where's your midfield? Every time it just straight through all the time. And it's either their positioning or they can't get there. The press is too slow. And we can't just rely on athleticism alone. We need some level of tactics, positioning, and being able to utilize the ball as well. And it goes back to the coach. We don't have a number 6, because I don't know for some reason why the three of them always go steaming forward. It's like playing in the park on a Sunday. I don't know, they're meant to be coached by a Premier League level coach. So I'm wondering if Bunce is going to pick up on that. And I just think, particularly away from home, I still don't understand why he persists with the 3 in midfield, because it's just so much running, man. It's so much running. And at the best, you need to just say, look, one of you just bloody stick. Just stay there so you can, be resistant to the press, try and win the ball back, even zonally, just cover an area. But they all go steaming forward. But yeah, in terms of Longstaff, he loses possession, poor pass. He's terrible at passing. But then you have to argue, the likes of Bruno, Joe Linton, where are you? I guess the line, are they confident enough to have a higher line at that point as well? So we're in 6s and 7s, and that's a concern, because these are issues we had last season. So nothing's being addressed. And like Craig Hope said, we're playing the same way we were 2 years ago. That's a bit concerning for me.
Okay. So Kante, in terms of the goal that we conceded, where for you does the blame lie? And could you see it coming?
Kind of. I think, in that 5-minute spell before the goal, you start to see Wolves growing to the game a little bit. And you always just kind of wondered, well, if they don't score in this minute, then there's definitely the next minute. If they don't score in the next minute, then it's definitely the one after that. So I think the blame, it's as Jeff said, you can sort of blame Eddie Howe, the way you want to play and the way you've been playing for a while. It's the same. Sometimes managers have to change up how they play, no matter how hard it may be to say, right, Mike, the way we're playing is just not working. Let's change it. You have to evolve. Just look at all the good managers that evolved how they play, in the past. Ferguson did it at United and became one of the most successful managers in the world. Klopp did it at Liverpool. He had a certain type of way he wanted to play when he first came in. Had to change it to evolve the team. I think that's what's the difference between a mediocre manager and a top manager now. Top managers aren't scared to evolve their tactics. They aren't scared to change it up. And, they know if something isn't working, you have to have a plan B. If plan B doesn't work, you have to have a plan C. Why do you think, Man City always winning things, and that's mainly down to how their attitude is. They're very, very complex. They know how they want to play, but if it doesn't work, they don't mind tweaking it a little bit. I just think with Eddie Howe, it's my way or the highway, basically. It's kind of similar to what Marco Silva does at Fulham. We play the same exactly way every single game, whether it's against Newcastle away or Barnsley at home, or if it's Leighton Orient in a friendly game. It's the same type of football. So when teams figure you out and they figure out how you want to play, it's always a bit difficult. And then when you look at Longstaff's pass, you can go, it's a pass that, as AC said, Tonali definitely makes. But I think with Longstaff, with him, I don't really rate him a lot. I see why he plays, because obviously he gives a lot for the team, But when something isn't working, you just have to say, right, let's get it done, So I also think in transition as well, when you play 3 midfielders that none of them are 6s, I think it's just natural instinct, when one of them has the ball, the other two go forward. That's just an instinct as a number 8. You go forward, get in the box, stay on the edge of the box. I think if Tonali was playing, he stays as at 6, which makes it a lot easier for Newcastle to then defend the counter-attack. But when they're all going forward at one time, it makes it a lot harder. So it's a mixture of different things, natural instinct from the 8s, who you played in midfield, of course. And also if you had a 6 there, that's easily avoidable. But of course, with Eddie Howe, it's the same tactics. Unfortunately, teams are going to find you out, and I think he has to realise sooner rather than later, just like Marco Silva, that there's going to be a lot of teams that will find you out. It's not just the top boys; it's teams below you now. And the one thing you can't have is teams below you catching you up.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, the lack of flexibility is frustrating, and the midfield is way too easy to bypass, which is frustrating and concerning as well. One thing we do have to give Eddie, well, maybe, but I think maybe have to give Eddie Howe.
There are some positives. There are some positives.
Maybe.
Now, well, the thing is, certain man on this podcast scream about Eddie Howe's predictable substitutions on 60 minutes, and lo and behold,
I've seen it.
Lo and behold, in this particular game, he changed it at half time.
He surprised me.
That's why, D-man.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm surprised.
We've been praising other managers for doing the same thing. So, one of them was forced because Isak had to come off, but I think he would have made 3 substitutions anyway. It's just the personnel that may be slightly different, but he made them. So, see what we saying.
I was surprised. I was completely surprised. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, we want to win the game now, do we? But also, let's face it, that first half was so bad for Longstaff, though. Unfortunately, if it couldn't get any worse, it really got worse.
Hold on a minute. Wait. He weren't the worst player on that pitch. Joe Linton was the worst player on that pitch.
No. I'm going to get to him. Don't worry. Yeah, okay. He's not escaping the guillotine right here because Joe Linton's my brother. Yeah, I love Joe Linton, right?
We got to talk about him.
But we have to talk about him. Now, to be honest, in that first 15 minutes, he was doing some stuff where he went almost he was collecting the ball. He was doing some things, he was doing, but I think he's just really I don't know, man, what's going on with him. He's just loose cannon.
He's a madman.
The goal went in, and all of a sudden he's just and he's getting yellow cards. I'm like, bro, you're getting I think he's already got 3 yellows. I'm like,
3 yellows in 4 games.
You're 2 red yellows away from a suspension already. We haven't even got into October.
I'm not condoning what he did to Mosquera, but he was fouled, and the ref should have given a free kick. I know if that was me, but I would have done the same. I would have hacked the next player and said, fuck off. But
you're a professional footballer, bro. You need to keep your head. Bro, you already clotheslined the keeper in previous games. You're on thin ice, bro.
Don't think VAR got his photo on the wall. Watch out for this man.
But why has he been so bad? Why has he been so bad? And since he scored that goal in the opening game,
man. I don't know. But I feel like it's just a weird one. He's just not been consistent at the moment, and it's almost just a bit of a liability at times. And there were some moments in that game where he would just literally give the ball away, literally, pass, you're passing
Release the ball.
I don't know, man. And I was just like, what is going on with him? Now, I think this is when management has to come into this and be like Joe Linton, we love you. You're good for the team and stuff, but looking at this Fulham game, I'm thinking that I don't think Joe Linton should start. And people might not like that choice, but I feel like at the moment,
bench him.
I feel like we're probably looking at the strengths of Willock because we got to talk about Willock, right? This guy was our best player statistically, right? He got the most, when we're looking at the actual scorings of the players and stuff, the ratings, he was our best player. I saw some ridiculous stats for Longstaff. I think BBC Sport gave him 2.3. I'm not even kidding, right? Some ridiculous stats out there. But anyway, Willock comes on. Obviously, Tonali comes on as well, and obviously Barnes comes on. Isak obviously come off for injury. I do want to talk about Isak a little bit more. We'll probably get into that a bit later because I feel like at the moment once again, the service is not getting to him. And it comes back to what Kante was saying a little bit, that I do think teams are finding us out. They're not giving Isak space. If you watch how Wolves defended with Isak can't get in behind to a point. Isak's trying to feed Murphy to get the ball to go up front. It's just like, why are we role reversing? And how many times do you see Isak have to come deep to get the ball?
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, you're not Harry Kane. Like, we're not... This is not England. I don't want you coming deep to get the ball because all of a sudden there's no one in the center, right? Gordon tries to go center, but let's face it, it's not his natural position. And I still even think that when later on, when Gordon was in the second half and he's obviously in a striker position, we're not getting the best out of Gordon. Anyway, I'm jumping a lot of topics here, but overall, though, I do think, I have to give credit to Eddie Howe. He did those changes and it impacted the game really well. But obviously not immediately, Leo, because when the kickoff happened, I was like, oh no, this is more of the same, right? Like nothing. The transition took a bit of time to obviously for us to kick into gear. But when it did, when Tonali was doing this one-touch passing, it was like, boom, okay, we're landing now, right? We're here. And then obviously Fabian Schär with his goal. Deflection, but you got
to win it. Yeah, you have to
listen. You got to have the audacity to take that shot. I don't care. You got to have it. Also, it's known now that players just don't shoot out from the box anymore because everyone's in the tick-a-tacker, want to walk it into the net. So the fact that we had 2 goals from outside the box, I'm just like, kudos, man. You have to respect it.
So Kante, when you saw the 3 players coming on, were you surprised that they came on so early? And did you think we'd go on to win the game from there?
If I was a manager, I'd do the same thing as Eddie Howe. But as I'm not a manager, I was very surprised. Yes, because as I know a lot of Newcastle fans, especially Jeff, he's always banging his gums about how late the substitutions are. So am I with Fulham. So us two are very, very alike,
You might as well join Newcastle, Russell.
Listen, our managers are cousins. Our managers are cousins. Like,
yeah, they're twins. Not even cousins. They're twins.
Eddie Silva.
Eddie Silva. Yeah, Marco Howe. But anyway, yeah, I was very surprised, but I think it was needed. When things are needed to be done in a football game, you have to get them done in a football game. And I think when Newcastle knew they had to win the game, they've had a very, well, points-wise, a very good start to the season. So I think the substitutions were needed. And when you look at who you brought on, Tonali, I think, was the main sub for me. Someone that can just relax the game, calm down. You're like, okay, fine. Fair enough. They're going to win the game. I had no doubts when I saw him warming up. And I said, right, if Tonali's coming on, just bet my whole house on Newcastle winning. But yeah, I mean, that's what Newcastle needed. You needed fresh legs. And as I said, if something isn't working, you can't be afraid to change it. It's the Premier League, it's the big leagues. You have to take risks for rewards. And if you're too scared to do that, then realistically, you shouldn't be in the job.
So just tell us about your thoughts on Harvey Barnes and also Kieran Trippier, because he came on later on. And some were saying, he brought a lot of qualities to the game as well. So what are your thoughts on those two specifically?
I think with Trippier, instantaneously, there's more impetus in the game. He's going to bring his leadership skills. So when we talk about that off the ball, he's going to be screaming around, you move there, drop deep, whatever, move ahead, blah, 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 which can be really, really helpful having those extra set of eyes and ears on the pitch. Let alone, looking at his dead ball quality, his passing quality, being his usage of the ball. But with Barnes, I would say AC touched on formation earlier. Believe it or not, I would still keep Joe Linton in the team. But what I would do is I would play a 4-4-1-1. And I would drop Gordon and I would have Barnes behind the striker. The reason I would do that is because he can go like that in an oval motion. He can pop up on the left. He can pop up on the right. You don't if we need wingers. And we've got that extra man in midfield that we need. We need 4 in midfield. Because at the moment, it looks like we're not going to play 3 at the back. So I would say 4-4-1-1.
So who would be your 4 midfield? Let's go.
I would have Joe Linton far left side. I would have
you. Go on. I don't want to interrupt you. Go on.
And then
It's
obviously
almost-
I'd have Willock, Tonali, and Bruno in there.
Bruno. Okay.
And I would ask Bruno and Tonali to alternate who sits deeper.
Because Willock can play on left, right? And he's our best ball carrier. So I will be like, if you want man to run that left, I will probably pick Willock in my opinion.
But the thing is, I think with Joe Linton, he's played that left wing forward position before. So if we need to adapt with the ball, he can do that, or we can switch to a box 4 as well. So when they move up, Bruno and Tonali can be deep lying in, and the other two can push in front. I just think having that one extra midfield gives us way more flexibility, and they can even take turns. So the likes of Willock and Joe Linton can even swap, because we saw Willock getting forward. He linked up really well with Barnes. Really good, intricate link-up play, and it was purposeful. It was purposeful as well, with intent. You felt like something was going to happen. So these were the positives. When these guys were on, there was that impetus of, no, it's not enough. We want to win this game. Let's make something happen. So Willock has got, what I would say, the difference of Willock with all of them, obviously he's not as good as Tonali on the ball, but he's still got that pedigree from his time at Arsenal in terms of being a good technician. He knows how to utilize the ball properly. Obviously, a lot of the time it's going forward, but actually people underestimate his close control, his dribbling, and how good he is in terms of passing the ball in sort of a medium range and his link-up play. So I think going forward, it might be a good idea for Eddie to experiment further and sacrifice, but because if he's sticking with 3 in midfield, he's going to have to sacrifice someone, and that might be Joe Linton. But again, Joe Linton is probably the best in terms of sort of those defensive qualities, because I don't know what's up with Bruno this season particularly, but he tries to dribble past 2 people every time. Every time he has a ball, he doesn't short release. He's like, let me spin this man and run past him. Why?
He knows that Tonali is going to be our main man, mate. When he comes on, he's sweating. He's sweating as well.
I don't get it. So I just keep it simple. All of them, if I was Eddie, I'd say all of you, keep it simple. 1-2 touch. 1-2 touch. Keep the ball.
I think you'll see a lot more of that once Tonali settled in. I know we've been banging that drum for a long time now, but I truly believe once he's settled into the team starting, you're going to see that midfield really passing it around confidently. It's just how well they can defend. That's going to be the main thing. But before we move on, I want to give a shout out to Nick Pope, because he made a couple of key saves, especially that one at the end from
Jesus,
Wally.
man.
Did you see that tweet? Did you see that tweet? He goes, Nick Pope can kick it into the stand as much as he likes, as long as he pulls off saves like that.
Well, that's it.
He's awful. He's awful when the ball
He's
comes
awful
back to him.
when the ball.
God.
He's so nervous. He can't find the man. He's shocking with his feet. Absolutely shocking.
Yeah, I know. He always hits it out wide, man. It's just.
Wow. He's a great shot stopper, and he can command his box. You know what I mean? So he brings a lot more confidence to our back line. Because if the Brav was in that goal, we lose that game.
We are conceding that goal, 100%.
Yeah.
And don't make me talk about Oddie and Ruddy either.
No. Let's not go there today.
But Pope, man, it does make me realize how important he is to the team. That there's some crazy stat that in the last
he lost the game in a year or so.
He ain't lost the game in a year. Obviously, the games that he played, and it's just ridiculous. And it's just like, man, we have got to keep him fit. Soon as if he drops off, everything else.
And you know why? Because the amount of shots, I think we faced the most shots in the league or something like that.
Oh, man.
Before the game, it was like 53 or something like that. So we've conceded a lot of shots. So we need to show up defensively. And it's a strange one, because 2 seasons ago, we were so good defensively and we didn't score enough goals. Last season, we couldn't defend and scored a lot of goals. So we need to find that balance. But what I wanted to ask Kante, right, is there an element that, we're not playing well, right? We started slowly. We're not really at full pelt. But I think Jefferson might have mentioned in one of the previous pods, with James Barnes coming in, the performance director now, is it a possibility that, obviously the performance is not deliberate, but we're deliberately not going full pelt at this present time, because the way we train under Eddie Howe, and the way we play is so intense. across the season, it's not sustainable, because even when we didn't have European football 2 seasons ago, we limped over the line to get that top 4 over the last few games. We were so knackered. So it's a case of, preserving ourselves at the moment, maybe for the first half of the season, and then go full pelt second half of the season when players are back. We've got a fully fit squad. We can really go for teams and start free throwing, and we start season slow anyway. So is there something in that we're saying, given the fixtures that we've got as well, up until the Man City game, most of those fixtures we don't expect to lose, right? So we're capable of going at, 85, 90%, and then moving on through the season, we're going to put our foot on the pedal and start, going full pelt. Is that a realistic viewpoint, or is it just played badly?
Partly, yeah. I think considering the extent of injuries you had last season, which ultimately kind of let you down last season, and when you're in the Champions League as well, the injuries you picked up and the players that were out for the period they were out for, you can say if they were here, we definitely would have done better. But I also think it's just down to teams have found you out ultimately, and that's why you're kind of starting slowly. I think if teams were struggling to find out, okay, well, how do Newcastle play? Then you'll see the performances would be a lot better. I think you just said it, D-Man, of course. 2 seasons ago, you lot were, really confident. Defensively, you were okay. Attacking, you were okay. Last season, poor defensively, great attackingly. And lastly, it just came down to, of course, you were playing Champions League early, knocked out early. And then you kind of look at it in that way. Well, we played 2 different things, of course. We've got Premier League, Champions League. And let's not forget you've got Carabao Cup early as well. And then the FA Cup comes in January. So you're playing a lot of games. And I think in those games where people look at Newcastle, of course, as you're in more competitions last season, more teams to be like, okay, how are Newcastle setting up against this type of team that are similar to us? How can we break them down? And I think it's showing itself this season as well, to the fact that when Newcastle have stepped out of the pitch this season, even though the results may look good, when you look at the performance-wise and the levels, you can argue that it might be performance-wise one of your worst starts to a season. Performance-wise, points-wise, it's one of your best, but performance-wise, you could argue we look completely off it this season. But then you got the quality aspect. You got quality players that know how to pop up at quality times. Isak's one of them. Harvey Barnes is another one. Just look what he did at Wolverhampton, Wanderers away. There's your answer. Definitely getting more involved in the game. But yeah, I think it's just it's a mixture of both those things. It's to ooze in the team a bit more, not go full pelt until later on in the season, where, let's say by Christmas, you know where you're going to be, and wherever you are, you can go, okay, how many points, let's say, for example, if Aston Villa are above you at Christmas time, say if they're 5 points above you, you can go at Christmas, okay, how can we catch them? What fixtures do they have? How do we need to play to catch them? If it's not working, can we change it? Who do we need to play? What our games are looking like? What are the fixtures looking like? It's also
swap Villa for Arsenal, isn't it? Because we're on Arsenal's tails, isn't it? We're going to be tracking Arsenal. Don't worry about
Villa. Mate, listen. There's more of a chance of Fulham tracking Arsenal than Newcastle. That'll be for sure.
Well, you know what? Speaking of Fulham, right? Because let's talk a bit about Fulham, right?
Watch Robinson this season. When you watch Robinson, and I expect AC and D-Man to go, you know what, Kante, fair play. I expect Jeff to give me a handshake.
I'm going to watch him closely, bro. Listen.
He's really good.
Yeah?
He's really good, man.
He's going to get that long staff treatment. But anyway.
He ain't that bad, mate. He ain't that bad.